Okay. Just think about that with your inner voice. Good. Congratulations, you have identified the difference between a stranger, acquaintance, and a friend, and that is responsible decision making. Well done. Give yourself a round of applause. So I think we pass. So I travel around the country speaking to educators and teachers, and there's two things that I've discovered. One is that you're not in it for the money, and two is that you have decided to give your life to something that makes a difference in other people's lives. And sometimes that can be really tiring, because I know this is maybe not a professional thing to say, but sometimes you give a little bit of yourself to the person that you're trying to help. And so when you come to a conference like this, you can feel a little bit fragmented, you can feel a little bit tired, you might feel you want to re-energize, you might think, oh man, I'm not sure I want to carry on doing this because it's so hard. And over the year, people probably tell you things that you think, man, I wish I never heard that. And it can be tough. And so I'm going to finish. I'm not going to do a funny thing to finish. I'm going to do quite a serious thing. I'm going to play a piece that the Fisk Jubilee Singers have sung 1,000 times. And it's a song, very, very well-known song called Kumbaya. And I'm going to play it on the piano. And I want you to close your eyes, and I want you just to reflect on what you want to get out of the conference. Maybe you just want to re-energize yourself, recharge your batteries. Maybe there's a session that you really want to go to. Maybe you just want to be on your own. Maybe you just want to go for a walk. Maybe you want to meet with a friend that you haven't seen for a long time. So I'm going to play it through twice, and once I've finished, I'm just going to hand off to Kyla Krengle, and she's going to carry on. Okay, here we go. Close your eyes. Okay, thank you. Kyla, over to you.
Thank you, Graham. Good morning. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome every one of you to the 2018 Music City National Conference, and welcome to Nashville. My name is Kyla Krengle, and I serve as the Director of SEL for Metro Nashville Public Schools. Along with Kathy Gracie in the yellow suit and the rest of the Alignment Nashville planning team, we want to extend a welcome to all of you and a generous thank you to Graham Hepburn and Quavers Music for an energizing, welcoming, and joyful opening. It's hard to be in Nashville and not experience the power of music to connect and inspire. So let's offer another round of applause to Graham and Quaver. And Graham and Alice from Quaver will be leading a panel session this afternoon at 1:30 in the library. And they will be having Congressman John Cooper and the president of the State Collaboration on Reforming Education, David Mansouri, in their panel session if you're interested in attending that. This year marks the 8th year that the MNPS SEL Department and Alignment Nashville have partnered to host this SEL conference. And this is the first year that we've expanded to include a national audience. So we're excited to have over 900 registered attendees at this conference. We have representation from 38 different states, and we have people attending from as far away as Japan, Nigeria, and Bhutan. So everybody, again, welcome to Nashville. What you'll notice about this year's conference is that we have some amazing keynote speakers and presenters, including the founder of the Roses and Concrete Community School, Jeff Duncan Andrade, who spoke at our pre-conference yesterday afternoon. And Scarlett Lewis is the founder of the Jessie Lewis Choose Love movement, and she'll be speaking this morning. And then tomorrow morning, Zaretta Hammond, an educator, author, and consultant who supports schools in creating more culturally responsive instruction. We're also excited to be hosting for the first time 2 student summits. A middle school student summit was held yesterday, and a high school student summit is convening today at a different location. So during our last session tomorrow, the student attendees will be coming to this conference and sharing their work and joining us in smaller group conversations about what we can do better to help to support the students in their work at schools. So one theme that you're going to hear throughout the conference is the value of elevating student and learner voice. Here in our district, one guiding question that we found to have a big impact is, how can we get student talk to exceed teacher talk? I invite you to pay attention to how this is modeled in our breakout sessions and the way in which it's experienced during the student-led circles tomorrow afternoon. Much of the work around SEL in our district has been supported by our participation with the Castle. I did not say that as eloquently as Graham did, with the Castle Collaborating District Initiative. And we're fortunate to be a part of this network for the past 6 years and have learned much from some of our collaborating district partners from across the country. And I know several of you are here attending today. So to our Castle consultants, Pamela and Eric, saw you guys over there. We want to thank you for your support and guidance over the past few years. Right now, I want to ask each of you to think about connecting to what Graham had you thinking about during his last song, and why did you choose to attend the conference? Each person is here for a different reason. I know that some folks chose to attend because they had a positive experience at one of our conferences in the past. Others might be intrigued by our keynote speakers, and I know that some of you are here because you heard about the conference from a friend or a colleague. Some are here because they're also presenting, and there are also people who traveled from afar to be here, and still others chose to attend as a part of a team of educators from a school or from a district. So while we all may be here for a variety of reasons, I believe that we all have a shared passion for empowering ourselves and our students to live lives of courage and compassion. To further connect with why we're here, I'd like to ask each one of you to reflect on a question. If you could teach children one idea, just one idea, that they'd carry with them for the rest of their lives, what would it be? I want you to take a moment and pause and think about this question. It's about stripping away and uncovering some of our deepest held beliefs and hopes for the children that we teach. Now I invite you to visit Slido, and I think the link is up there, on your phone or device, and respond to that question in 1 or 2 words. To enter the survey, you can just use the access code, SEL, and then we will be able to watch some of those responses pop up as you guys are entering them in. So again, the question is, if you could teach children one idea, just one, that they'd carry with them for the rest of their lives, what would it be? And as you guys are typing in your word, I'll share with you that this is an activity that we do in one of our SEL Foundations courses here in the district, and it's amazing that the responses that we get always reflect similar hopes. Hopes that have to do with teaching and instilling in students self-acceptance, tolerance, empathy, kindness, perseverance, courage. skills that reflect social and emotional competencies and traits that students and adults need to be successful, not only in school, but in life. So thank you guys for sharing. I want to acknowledge some of the people who have worked tirelessly to make this conference a success. This conference would not be possible without the support of Alignment Nashville's Behavioral Health Committee. These committee members have worked throughout the year to make this conference the best that it can be. And this collaboration exemplifies positive community involvement in our public schools here in Nashville. So if you're part of the Behavior Alignment team, can you please stand and be recognized? And most of them are not in here because they're out making sure that everything is running smoothly. But we'll give them a round of applause just for the work that they've been doing. I'd also like to thank the staff at Cane Ridge High School. I know that summer's a busy time for schools, and I hope that we can each pitch in to make sure that we can care for this space. A number of community organizations and businesses have also supported this year's conference as well. Those folks are recognized on the PowerPoint that's looping in the common areas throughout the building. And we'd like to recognize our platinum sponsor, Metro Nashville Public Schools, our silver sponsors, Pure Edge, our copper sponsor is Quaver's Marvelous World of Music, and some of our bronze sponsors are William H. Freeman, Flippin Group, Vanderbilt University, Rethink Ed, KidLink Treatment Services, and STARS. So thank you all for contributing. And finally, just a few logistics for these next 2 days. Lunch and engagement hour will occur at 12:15 in the SEL Cafe. You're welcome to collect your lunch, find a seat in the cafe or in any of the breakout rooms, or I know some people like to sit outside. But please make sure to visit the vendors during lunch. If you have not already downloaded the app for the conference, please take a moment to do that this morning. And you should have received an email with a link, but if you did not, please visit the app assistance table as you exit the auditorium. It will be to your left. If you would like a certificate of attendance to document your professional development hours, you can pick these up at the end of the day in your last session. We will bring those to your last session. Please plan to attend the last session tomorrow. Like I mentioned earlier, we are really excited that our students are going to be coming and sharing the work and their action plans that they are going to be taking back into their schools. And our other announcement is that please make sure to join our Twitter conversation. The hashtag is MusicCitySEL. And we also have coffee and we'll have snacks throughout the day in the cafe. And then at the end of the hall down by sessions, we have a great area where you and your friends and new friends can take selfies and post them to our Twitter feed. But right now, I'd like to invite Mattia Powell to the stage. Mattia is Alignment Nashville's Vice President of Community Engagement.
Good morning. All right, before I give you my brief remarks, I would love to take just a minute to get some folks seated. I know there's quite a few folks standing on the side of the wall, and we have some empty seats in the front. I know no one wants to sit in the front, but if you would come on down. And if you happen to have an empty seat by you, if you could please raise your hands, because we still have some sprinkled out. So I'm just going to take a few minutes so people can have a chance to find a seat. There's some in the front, guys. Come on down. You get a prize if you sit in the front. I mean, you don't, but just think you do. Okay. Great. I want to make sure everyone's comfortable so we can really receive this really wonderful keynote that you're going to receive later. So Alignment Nashville was founded about 12 years ago when city leaders recognized that if the community focused and coordinated resources, that the impact on students could be powerful. To do this, we need to shift the way we work together to better support students and families, understanding that schools should not have to bear this responsibility alone. As the old proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so Alignment Nashville brings the community together to find unique solutions built around common goals and outcomes. To do this work, we facilitate teams of cross-sector leaders from the community and from the school district. One of our alignment teams, the behavioral health team, has been the host committee for this conference, and I know Kyla has already recognized them, but I would love for you to give them another round of applause. They have done such wonderful work putting this conference together. So, this behavioral health team has been working to embed social emotional learning into schools and into the community for over a decade. And I just want to thank them for all their hard work, for making this conference what it's become over the last 8 years. To quote educator Rita Pearson, every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connections and insists they become the best they can be. We hope that everyone will leave this conference inspired and renewed and ready to change the lives of your students in your community. Thank you.
It is my privilege and distinct honor to welcome our keynote speaker for today, Scarlett Lewis, mother of Jesse Lewis and founder of the Jesse Lewis Choose Love Foundation. There's so much to say about Scarlett, but instead I want to share some of her words, and I invite you to take a moment to let these words and hopes settle in. She reminds us that although we can't always choose what happens to us, we can always choose how to respond. Children can learn to choose a loving thought over an angry one. When a child realizes that they have the power to positively impact themselves as well as those around them, it is empowering and perpetuates their positive actions and interactions. Such a powerful message for our times and for our schools. Our speaker, Scarlett Lewis, is someone who embodies courage and love and has started a worldwide movement, the Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement. Her work aims to educate and encourage individuals to choose love by being courageous, practicing kindness and gratitude, offering forgiveness, and showing compassion in action. Her story and her work has touched me deeply, and as I know it will you. I had the honor of meeting Scarlett at a recent Novo and EdFirst SEL in Action conference recently, where I heard her story and learned about how she had turned a deep tragedy into spreading the message of love. She gave us a copy of her book, Nurturing Healing Love, and our entire department read it and was inspired by her courage and her journey. Scarlett Lewis has personally dedicated her life's work to sharing Jesse's message to make a positive impact on our world and by supporting the efforts of increasing the awareness and benefits of SEL by choosing love. Please join me in welcoming Scarlett to the stage, and let's show her some love.
Good morning. I am with my people here today. You guys are here at an SEL conference. I'm so excited to share my story and message today with you. The first thing that I want to do, I have to turn it on, is express gratitude for each and every single one of you. You guys, educators, are superheroes. We give you, and I'm talking to you as a parent, we give you our most precious asset every single day and ask you to help shape and mold them into the human beings that they're going to become. There is no more important job. You all are life transformers and life savers on a daily basis. And so I just want to start off by expressing my sincere gratitude for you all and the work that you do every day and the fact that you're here and we're talking about social emotional learning, which I have dedicated my life to spreading awareness of, and you'll understand why I'm so passionate shortly, but thank you. Thank you for everything that you do on a daily basis to make the world a better place. And give yourselves a round of applause because you guys are, you're superheroes. You are these superheroes. Thank you. So let's see, my little thing is not working. Here, okay. Keep calm and choose love. All right, I'm gonna play a little introductory video, and then I'm gonna come back on. It's about 4 minutes.
It is August 24th, 2012, and Jess has brand new soccer shoes.
So prior to 2012, I was a single mom with 2 boys. It was kind of an unremarkable life. It was such a great life. You know, I just wanted to be a mom. I just wanted to be with my kids.
Run the ball up to me.
One day, you're a mom with 2 boys, 1 boy riding in a car seat in the back seat. So one morning I'm holding hands with my 6-year-old in his car seat, and the next thing that I know, there is no 6-year-old. He's been murdered.
Cut!
So I had come home for the first time, and I was getting Jesse's clothes for the funeral, and I walked through the kitchen on my way out, and I noticed these 3 words that Jesse had written on the kitchen chalkboard shortly before he died. He wrote, "Nurturing, healing, love." These words were a message of comfort for his family and friends, and inspiration for the world. It's where we needed to turn. And I knew I'd be spending the rest of my life spreading this message. I didn't have to create a solution. There was one available, and it's called social emotional learning. And social emotional learning proactively prevents violence. I believe that Jesse is a part of this organization. I actually believe that he's leading it. And all I have to do is just be present. I live with a tremendous dichotomy in my life every single day. It's never out of my mind why I am leading a worldwide movement to choose love. It's because my 6-year-old son was shot in his 1st grade classroom alongside 19 of his classmates in one of the worst mass murders in U.S. history. I feel like I meet Jesse a lot in schools. I'll look into a child's eyes and I'll see Jesse looking back at me. And how blessed am I, and how grateful I am that my purpose is spreading a message of choosing love, and given to me by my 6-year-old son. I love this quote by Nelson Mandela. "People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." And I thought about how something like this could happen. And the whole movement to choose love actually started at Jesse's funeral when I got up to speak. And I said, this whole tragedy started with an angry thought in Adam Lanza's head. Adam Lanza was the former student who was the shooter. And I pictured Adam as a little boy having angry thoughts without the tools and nurturing environment to deal with that thought. We know that everything starts with a thought in our head. Our perception of our reality, joy, anger, starts with a thought in our head. And the interesting thing is, we know through research that every single one in here has about 60,000 thoughts a day. The majority of those thoughts, 70 to 80%, are negative, angry, non-productive, and don't serve us. Over 95% of those 60,000 thoughts that we have every day are repetitive. That means it's the same thought we had yesterday, the day before, the week before, the month before, up to 5 years before. So if we know that our thoughts shape our reality, and the majority of our thoughts, on average, this is research, are negative and repetitive, it really makes us want to be mindful of what we're choosing to think about. So the amazing thing to me is the tragedy started with an angry thought, and the amazing thing is that an angry thought can be changed. It can be changed. It could have been changed anywhere along the way. So I asked everybody that day to please start thinking about what they think about and to change one angry thought into a loving thought. Just one a day. I said by doing that, you'll make yourself feel better, you'll positively impact those around you, and through the ripple effect, you will make this a safer, more peaceful and loving world. So everybody went to the four corners of the United States, mostly, and they started calling me, emailing me, texting me, writing me about a week later, saying that one simple act completely changed their life. And by the way, I knew that I was onto something, and that would have been the movement to choose love. That was my idea. Like, go around, talk about changing angry thoughts into loving thoughts. But then I got educators involved, honestly, and educators blew the roof off of it. Now it's a worldwide movement, positively impacting over 500,000 kids a day, just within 2 years, because of educators. So I'm going to be talking about that, about what we're doing. Sorry, this isn't working very well. And you know what? This is not something that I made up. This is not my theory or concept, right? This is what we know in mental health to be the cognitive triangle. Things start with a thought, that impact our feelings, that then impact our behavior. One of the foundational components, and we have a program that I'm going to be talking about called the Choose Love Enrichment Program. One of the foundational components actually comes from a quote by Viktor Frankl, and I love this quote. So his quote is, I don't know if anybody has read Man's Search for Meaning, but this is where this comes from. Great book, should be required reading. Between stimulus, and stimulus is what happens to us in life, and it can be anything at all. It could be having your son murdered in their first grade classroom. Thank you. I'll try that. Thank you. Anything at all between stimulus and our thoughtful response. Not impetuous reaction, thoughtful response. There's a space. In that space lies our freedom and power to choose our response. That's when we take our personal power back. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. So in other words, you can't always choose what happens to you. That's for sure. I certainly would never have chosen what happened to Jesse, what happened to my family, but there is one thing that I could choose, and that's how I chose to respond. That's when you take your personal power back in a situation. And by the way, you can always respond with love. We're going to be talking about that. So I chose very quickly after my personal tragedy to be part of the solution. I knew that I would spend the rest of my life being part of this solution. But I realized very quickly that that didn't just mean violence in schools. We have a lot of other issues that are going on. So you guys may be aware of these, but maybe not the statistics. Violence is now, unfortunately, our new normal. 5.5 years ago, I was saying, this can't be our new normal. Schools have to be a safe haven for educators and students. They have to be. 5.5 years later, now I'm saying, well, this is our new normal, but it still can't be. It can't be, and we know what to do. We just need to find the courage within us to do it. We have a mental health epidemic. 49.5% of our U.S. youth will have had a diagnosable mental illness by the time they're 18. The majority of that diagnosis is anxiety. The average onset age for anxiety is 6 years old. And we know that the majority of those kids are not going to get professional help, so around 70%. So they suffer alone. It's so interesting when you look at the long-term impact of untreated anxiety. It's exactly what we're seeing in our society. Mental illness, suicide, depression, violence, substance abuse, incarceration. Trauma in schools has increased. So 20 years ago, groundbreaking research called the ACEs study, Adverse Childhood Experiences. That study found 20 years ago that 1 in 5 kids was coming to school traumatized. Today, we know that that number is more like 50%. 50% of our kids are coming to school having experienced a recent traumatic event. Keep in mind, trauma can be anything from yelling and screaming at home to the unthinkable. We know that bullying has increased. And these are all cited up here. Bullying has actually increased in our schools by 21% since we started tracking it in 2003. This despite state-mandated anti-bullying programs that every child has to go through. Bullying laws, bullying is increasing. There are more suicides in the US than murders, despite whatever suicide prevention programs we have. And substance abuse is skyrocketing, despite state-mandated substance abuse programs that every child has to go through. This is all happening currently, despite what is seemingly our best efforts. All of these issues aren't new. You knew about all of them. You may not have known the statistics. Probably, in fact, every single person in here has been personally touched by one or more of these issues within themselves or their families or their friends. We all want these to stop. We all want to be part of the solution. Everyone, people have dedicated their lives to doing it, yet they continue to increase. Why? Why are these continuing to increase when nobody wants them to? Everybody wants them to stop. Well, I have a theory. It's because of our negative bias that we have as a society. We have a negative bias. Think about our thoughts. The majority of our thoughts are negative. Why are the majority of our thoughts negative? You know why? Because they're trying to keep us safe. That's why. So let's go back to caveman times, and let's picture a caveman, let's say cave woman, because I'm a cave woman. So I'm a cave woman, and I'm standing on one side of a cave, and I am totally zoned out, meditating, peaceful, calm, right? And then there's another cave woman over on the other side of the cave, and she's scanning for a saber-toothed tiger. Actually, I was doing this in a school, and they're the tigers, and there was actually a tiger on stage with me. It was really funny. Who's going to live to pass down their genes? Scanner, scanner. If you ask kids, they say, meditator. But we know it's the scanner that's going to live. We still have that scanning mentality, right? Except we live in a completely different environment. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be aware of your surroundings, but I'm saying we still have the negative bias, right? And focusing on the negative, what happens when you focus on something? What? Yeah, it can consume you, and it grows. It grows. And that's what we've seen with that whole list of issues that continue to grow despite what is seemingly our best efforts. We're going to be talking about this today. I'm going to give you another example. And by the way, it doesn't matter who I'm talking to, what audience, it doesn't matter, anywhere, all over the world, the response is still the same. Who here has never heard of PTSD? You've never heard of PTSD. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Do I have to say what it is, or do you guys know because of the acronym. You just know the acronym, right? You know it's post-traumatic stress disorder. Everybody's heard of it, right? Okay, now I'm going to ask you another question. Who here has heard of PTG? Post-traumatic growth. 2? 3? 3 people. 3 people have heard of, that's really good actually, because usually no one has. Or if I'm at a mental health conference, maybe one person in the front row. Okay, PTG is post-traumatic growth. So it's interesting, when you look at the research, and they're both research, they're both on the internet, they're Googleable. Obviously, you look up PTSD, so interesting. 7% of the population will suffer from PTSD at some point in their life. 7%. When you look up PTG, post-traumatic growth, it's a thing, by the way, there's research behind it. The vast majority of us will experience post-traumatic growth. So the vast majority of us experienced it, but you've never heard of it. What is it? It's when you grow through trauma. It's when you grow through difficulty, challenges, pain. How are we shaped and molded as human beings? Is it when we're at birthday parties, getting all the presents that we want, surrounded by family and friends, stuffing our face with cake? Is that when we make the difficult decisions? And no way. It's through difficulty, it's through pain, it's even through suffering. That's what post-traumatic growth is. It's when we find strength we never knew we had. It's when we gain a new perspective. It's when we find meaning in our suffering, maybe deepen our spirituality. It's when we strengthen relationships, weed out weak ones. Find a purpose in life. That's post-traumatic growth. The vast majority of you have experienced it, but you've never heard of it. Why? Because, I'll tell you why. We're too busy going, oh, PTSD? What is that? Oh, it's, okay, what? Writing it down on an index card, right? Filing it away in case one day we might be harmed by that. Our bodies our minds are trying to keep us safe, right? But we really, really need to be more positive focused. And I'm really talking about proactive prevention today, rather than reacting and addressing the symptoms. I love this quote by Helen Keller. Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experiences of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, vision cleared, ambition inspired, and success achieved. So, that whole list of issues that's been around for so long, none of us want it to be there, right? We all want to fix it. Who's going to fix it? Let's just figure it out right now. Let's just figure it out, because let's just do this right now, because we're the people to do it. Who's going to fix it? Yeah. Actually, I was in Montreal the other day. Nothing against Canada at all. I love Canada. But there was a whole group of community, and usually it's like, and this 10-year-old little boy was like, we are. And I said, you're exactly right. Yes, 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 we are. But, by addressing the cause, which is what we're here to talk about today with social emotional learning. So I want to run through something, because I got to tell you, one of my darkest days was when the Parkland shooting happened, right? I'd always really practiced being present with my boys. And so that means that we did not have a TV, because I was a single mom, I worked full time, I felt like I had no time with them. So I didn't want to compete with a TV. And so we still don't have a TV. So anyway, I watched a little bit after the Sandy Hook shooting, but I really didn't watch a whole lot until after Parkland. I'm single, so I go to my mom's house for dinner a lot. So I bring JT over to my mom's house, and she's got the TV going, and I'm listening to the news coverage of Parkland, right? And I have this, it was like a time warp, because they were saying the exact same things on TV that they did 5 years ago. And I had a hard time with it. I was like, oh my God, we're having the same conversation, but it's been 5 years. And then I saw the kids stand up and go, okay, well, if nobody's gonna do anything to keep us safe, then we're gonna do it ourselves. And I gotta tell you, I felt shame. I know shame's a bad word, but I felt it because I know it's our responsibility to keep kids safe. And so I have a great therapist. He lives in LA. We FaceTime once a week. And I was telling him about this. Like, I'm having a hard time with this. What the heck is going on? How can we be speaking about the same things that we were 5 years ago with nothing done? And he ran me through this little exercise, and I want to run you through. I run all of my audiences through this because this explains it. Okay, so just do this because it's pretty interesting. This is how we think as human beings. So I want you to think about a problem that you're currently having. Could be any problem, just off the top of your head, a problem that you're having. Raise your hand if you're not having a problem, and I'll give you one of mine. Just kidding. Okay, so does everybody have their problem? It shouldn't be that difficult. All right. I want you to mentally list 3 to 5 thoughts and feelings about that problem. Just off the top of your head, 3 to 5 thoughts and feelings about the problem that you're having. I'll give you just 10 seconds to do that. You got it? Okay. Now I want you to take your mental pen and I want you to circle the thoughts and feelings that are about a solution to that problem. None, right? Isn't that interesting? That really helped me because that's how we think, right? We don't think solution-oriented. So interesting. Today, we're going to be focusing on the solution to all of those issues. And we know it's social-emotional learning. When I was looking for social-emotional learning after the murder of my 6-year-old son, I was heartened to find that there was one. There was already one, and it's called social and emotional learning, as you guys know. It's the #1 way to have a safe school. Wait a minute, what do you mean? Because, you know, when we traditionally think about keeping our schools safe, we think about arming or not arming school resource officers, single-point entries, door locks, bulletproof film that we put over glass, right? And I'm not saying those things aren't important, but those are external safety measures. None of those things address the cause of why a student wants to come into a school and harm another student or educator, which is the usual target. None of those things. The only thing that does is social-emotional learning. Kids that are taught social-emotional learning, we are cultivating safety from the inside out. So in other words, you can't have a comprehensive school safety plan without having social and emotional learning that is taught with fidelity as part of that. You need, and unfortunately, external safety measures are important, but more important is this internal safety measure. Just a different way of thinking about it, right? If you're having to go to your school and talk about it and try to get the movement going for social emotional learning, we also know it's the #1 most proactive and preventative mental health initiative that we have. Long-term studies, as we know, show that it reduces and prevents mental illness before it even starts. And we know it's the #1 way to improve school climate and culture. I don't have to sell it to you guys. It's so nice because I took out all my slides that sell social emotional learning. But we also know that top companies are looking for EQ. And by the way, that EQ, emotional intelligence, is the ability to label emotions within yourself. Social and emotional intelligence is the ability to interact. And so a lot of times EQ is used synonymously. It's also the #1 way to break the generational cycle of dysfunction. Do you know that dysfunction in a family can go out 7 generations? Is that crazy? I don't know any other way to break that when you're in that environment than learning those skills and tools in school. This is interesting. According to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, emotional intelligence or social emotional intelligence will be one of the top 10 job skills in 2020. Wait a minute, that's 2 years. 30 to 40% of the latest growing occupations will require explicit SEL skills from the class of 2030. That's the Microsoft report on SEL that just came out. This I brought to the White House with me. So I worked with the Obama administration, and I'm going to work with anyone that wants to have safe schools and help our children, right? But I made this for the Trump administration. SEL is a money maker, right? Columbia University had a report in 2015 that showed that for every dollar invested in SEL, there's an $11 net present value return to the community. I can't think of a better investment than our most precious asset, which is our children. And also think about all the money that we pour out as taxpayers. Recent report, tens of billions of dollars to pay for addressing the symptoms of the opioid crisis. Who pays for that? We do. How about spending a fraction of that to actually reduce and prevent it before it even happens in the first place? It just makes sense. This is something that I thought everybody was going to be waiting on the edge of their seats, literally like I was after the Sandy Hook tragedy. The Sandy Hook Advisory Commission was put together to find out how something like that could happen and what we could do to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And I thought everybody was going to be sitting on the edge of their seats to hear this report. Interestingly enough, not many people have heard of it. So interesting. Do you know one of like 3 recommendations to prevent another tragedy like Sandy Hook was social and emotional learning, right? All schools should implement a sequenced social development curricula. And this is a commission that actually spent abilities focused on curricular issues rather than on social and emotional characteristics that were seriously impacting his ability to participate in a regular education environment. The absence of a plan to address Adam's social emotional issues likely contributed to a situation in which he eventually became increasingly withdrawn and socially isolated. The Child Advocate report specifically states, is there a reluctance to serve youth's social emotional learning needs in schools? Here's its recommendation. Schools must have capacity to address social emotional learning, offer evidence-based social skills curriculum, skill building regarding social pragmatics and other supports. And there was one more thing I wanted to read. This is in the report. Our education system has prioritized children's cognitive development at the expense of their social and emotional development, and this disproportionate focus on academic achievement threatens to become even more entrenched. Research clearly demonstrates, however, that social emotional learning curricula have a positive impact on children's development and actually enhance their progress. Recommendations from the Sandy Hook Advisory Commission on how to prevent another Sandy Hook massacre state social emotional learning must form an integral part of the curriculum from preschool through high school. All schools should implement a sequenced social development curriculum. Pretty cool, right? And that's available online if you want to download it. So I also wanted to bring to your attention, there is the Stop School Violence Act of 2018 that's actually planning on giving money to each individual state. So states right now in the governor's office are preparing reports to figure out how to keep schools safe. I know this because I've worked with a couple of governor's offices, and I have said social emotional learning is so important to school safety. You really can't have a comprehensive statewide school safety program without social emotional learning. So consider that, and states are. But I just wanted to say this to you because you guys are from, 36 different states in here. So I can't go to every state. Help me, help you by spreading this awareness, right? That they're getting this money to keep schools safe, and part of it should be going towards social and emotional learning efforts. So this whole journey for me started with 3 words on a kitchen chalkboard. I found these words after Jesse died. He had written as a 6-year-old, nurturing, healing, love. Now those 3 words aren't something a 6-year-old would normally say, phonetically spelled, because he was in 1st grade and just learning how to write. But I knew instantly when I saw that message that if Adam Lanza, who was the troubled former student of Sandy Hook Elementary School, had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, that the tragedy would never have happened. And I knew that I would be spending the rest of my life spreading this message. So I knew that that's what it meant to me, but I thought that there might be a bigger meaning. So I invited the director of the Compassion, Creativity, and Innovation Center at Western Connecticut State University, Dr. Chris Cook. He's the author of The Compassionate Achiever, over to my house. And I said, look at what Jesse wrote. I know what it means to me, but is there a deeper meaning? So he said, let me go do some research. And within 24 hours, he called me back and he said, you know what? Those 3 words are in the definition of compassion across all cultures. And together we broke down the meaning, and we found that it was a powerful and profound formula for choosing love in any situation or circumstance. That formula starts with courage. And of course, I think about Jesse's example of courage when the shooter entered his classroom and he stood up to him and helped save 9 of his classmates' lives at 6 years old. Of course, I talk about that because that's the same courage that we all have within us. He was a 6-year-old little boy. We all have that courage. And hopefully, of course, we'll never be called to lay down our lives for the lives of our friends, but we see it in so many different ways. Courage to tell the truth, courage to do the right thing, courage to step outside of your comfort zone. And we practice courage every single day, but we need to be aware that we have it. And courage is like a muscle. We have to practice it. So, and by the way, it takes courage to do anything well, correct? And it definitely takes courage to practice the next 3 character values. So gratitude means, nurturing means loving kindness and gratitude. Gratitude, by the way, being the great mind shifter. You know the 60,000 thoughts that go through your head every single day, the majority of which are negative? You can't have 2 thoughts at once. How cool is that? You literally can't have 2 thoughts at once. It's impossible. That means that you can't have an angry, depressed, lower energy thought and a grateful thought at once. It doesn't mean that you can't have like an angry thought, a grateful thought, and an angry thought, but that's where a gratitude practice comes in. Nurturing, healing means forgiveness. Healing literally means forgiveness. And we have a definition of forgiveness in our program, but my new and improved definition is taking your personal power back. That's all. That's when you take your personal power back. Doesn't matter what the situation is at all. You refuse to give control over your thoughts that impact your feelings, that impact your behavior, to the person or thing that has hurt you. You take your personal power back through forgiveness. And it's a choice. Then it becomes a process. And love is compassion in action. Love has 2 components. Love has an empathetic component or an identifying of pain. Did anybody feel empathy for me when you saw that film? How did that feel? How did it feel? How did it feel in your body? Does anybody want to share? Heart-wrenching, overwhelming, sad. You know what's interesting about empathy? Empathy lights up the same receptors in your brain as physical pain. So when you thought you felt pain and maybe shed a few tears, you actually did. So you actually have to also consider the action component when you talk about compassion. Compassion in action. There's the identity, and actually the latest neuroscience tells us we don't have to take on another person's pain. We can identify the pain or suffering in another and then actively do something to help ease that pain. The incredible thing about the action component is that the nurturing, healing love that we give out, we get back. It's pretty cool, and there's science behind that. There's science behind all of this. And when you practice those 3 character values, if you have the courage to practice those 3 character values, actually neuroscientifically accurate in that order, and I'm sure Jesse didn't realize that, you're choosing love. So, and that can lead you to choose love in any situation or circumstance at all. So I thought, oh my God, why doesn't every child have access to social emotional learning in the whole planet? If we have decades of research behind this and we know that it proactively prevents and reduces all of the issues that we're experiencing, How come every child doesn't have access? And I thought, okay, well, I realized, I found that there were issues. One was cost. Some of the programs are very costly. And for good reason, because research is very expensive, as I'm learning, right? And some have a train the trainer model where you send out 1 to 3 people and then they're supposed to come back to school and train everybody else, and that's difficult to implement, right? So I worked with a big group of dedicated educators, and we created a program that we believe transcends all of those issues. It's called the Choose Love Enrichment Program. We made it no cost. It's written by educators for educators, by the educators that teach in your grades, for educators, and we put all of the best of what was statistically effective and being taught in classrooms today. Social emotional learning and those 5 core components, but also positive psychology, mindfulness, growth mindset, neuroscience, emotional intelligence, character education. I'm pretty sure we have the only one that has the underlying post-traumatic growth research, because nobody's heard of it. We made it easy to teach, easy to learn, flexible. We made it a lot of fun. This is some feedback from a little, which is really cute. Out of all the hearts, only one is the best. And then they drew the little logo. And that's a hard logo to draw, actually. So we launched this whole program 2 years ago. And we are a small organization. We don't have any marketing or PR. And by word of mouth, the program is now being taught in all 50 states and over 55 countries. Choosing love, which is pretty cool. My mouth, and you realize I have a big mouth by now, but also the mouths of the educators that are using it, having great benefits, and you can just access it easily by going on our website, jessieLewisChooseLove.org, and downloading it. That's what it looks like. We have incredible resources, and here's just some survey results from this year. 99% that they said of educators that responded said they saw an improvement in classroom climate. 98% said they have seen improvement in students' overall behavior. 73% said their students get along better. 83% said their students have a more positive attitude. 66% saw an increase in academic performance. Wow, rock star. How can they be so rock star? I think it's because we include love. Love is what connects us all as human beings, the lack of which is the source of some of those problems that we're seeing. I have another short video. What time is it? Okay, I'm going to go through it. Sorry. So we're all connected as human beings throughout the world. We look at each other and we see perceived differences, right? Different religions, differences in other ways, but we're all the same, actually, in the want and need to love and be loved. Even age-wise, we're the same in that. Babies need love. They die without it. On our deathbed, we want love. We're all the same in the want and need to love and be loved. And actually, we're wired to connect. We have mirror neurons in our brain that help us. We have to connect. You know, people sometimes say Darwin says survival of the fittest. He never said that. He said survival of the most compassionate, because we have to work together to survive, right? And these mirror neurons help us do that. And actually, it was interesting. A waitress the other night was sharing her relationship woes with me, and she's crying, and her boyfriend was being so mean, and I thought, wow, we crave connection so much, and she was so afraid of losing that connection that she would stay with somebody who mistreated her. That's pretty incredible. And what's the secret to happiness? Because that's another thing that connects us all as human beings. All of us want to be happy. And what is the secret to happiness? Well, Harvard University, you've heard of them, did a 75-year longitudinal study, and they wanted to find out what is the secret to happiness. So for 75 years, they took different data points, same survey, different people. Guess what? The secret to happiness was positive relationships and healthy connections. That's the secret to happiness, guys. And guess how we do that? And by the way, we don't necessarily have the skills and tools. We're not born with them to do that. We have to learn how to have healthy relationships and deep, meaningful connections. We have to learn skills and tools for resilience. We have to learn how to manage our emotions and resolve conflict. These are learned skills and tools. We're not born with them. Just like there is no mass murder gene, babies aren't born and you go, oh, so cute, too bad he's going to be a mass murderer. No, mass murderers are cultivated into what they become by their environment. There is no social and emotional intelligence gene either. We're not born with these skills and tools. We must learn them. And if we didn't learn them, we don't necessarily have them, and I can say that because when I learned about social emotional learning and emotional intelligence, I thought, wow, I have a long way to go. And I've learned a lot within the last 5 years, and it has really enhanced my life, as you can imagine. So I was at a school counseling conference last summer, and our keynote speaker was an FBI director of drug enforcement. And he said, I'm here to tell you that we're losing the war on drugs. We realize we can't, these are direct quote because I'll never forget them. We can't arrest our way out of this problem, and now it's worse than ever. Drugs are killing more people than cars and guns for the first time. We had over 50,000 deaths by drug overdoses last year, and that number is expected to increase over the next 5 years. And we're here, I'm here today, because our new strategy is to ask you for help. I was like, oh my God, are you serious? You're the FBI. But then his counterpart got up and started speaking my language and blew me away. She said, the opposite of addiction is connection, and connection is love. And I learned that connection was love through talking with little kids, because I love talking to them because they just blurt out the truth. They don't care what anybody thinks, right? So I'll get them in a room and I'll say, okay guys, what does anger feel like in your body? And they'll go, blah, headache, inferno, fire. And then I say, what does love look like? And without thinking, and they're not necessarily sitting next to their best friend because they'll be in an auditorium, they go like this. Or if they're sitting across from desks, they go like this. Trying to touch. And I realized, oh, from them, okay, love is connection. The opposite of addiction is connection, and connection is love. Guess what? We have to learn how to connect in healthy and deep and meaningful ways, and that's what social emotional learning does. Here's a little video on connection.
The Choose Love program that we did in the 5th and 6th grade, I thought helped like all of us like together to become better friends with each other, because I thought we actually really didn't like each other at the beginning of the year, but like now I feel like we're getting to be like better friends.
Alright, so what it did was some kids would hang out with the same kids and they wouldn't really interact. Now after we had that here, everyone became friends. They all talked to each other, and like it's still happening to this day. Everyone's friends with each other, even in class and even outside of school.
So I'm going to introduce Jesse really quickly because he's the impetus for all of this. This was his first grade class picture taken October 23rd, 2012. And the best way to introduce him is to say he was born 11 pounds. There's a picture to prove it. So clearly he was a C-section. And the first time I saw him, I walked to the nursery, and there were nurses gathered all in front of the window taking pictures. So I walked up behind them and I said, what are you taking pictures of? And they said, there's this enormous baby who is trying to crawl out of his bassinet. And that was Jesse, less than 24 hours old, trying to crawl out of the bassinet. And if you think of a normal like 6 or 7 pounder and 11 pounder, it's a big difference. So that was Jesse his whole life. Larger than life, so energetic, bouncing off the walls, always happy, always fun. This is Jesse on his 6th birthday. He wanted to have pony rides on our little farm in the middle of Sandy Hook where we still live. And Jesse's 2 favorite things were little yellow ducks and army men. I called it the dichotomy of his personality. So he would carry around a little Spider-Man lunchbox, half with ducks, half with military figurines. And so when we were thinking about a logo and we knew we wanted to work in schools, it was like military, ducks, okay, ducks. So that's our logo. But the interesting thing, the military man came in. Well, I have a 501c3, so I'm a registered charity, so I have a board of directors. My chairman of the board is a retired 3-star Marine general. And he says he has seen active combat and the worst of humanity. He did 3 tours in Vietnam, 2 tours in Iraq, and he believes the only path to peace is what we're doing in the Choose Love movement and social emotional learning. So let's make this all very easy. Let's just break this all down, right? So what do we know? Because we don't know a lot, but we know some things. We know that all human beings need connection. And you know, a lot of times when I talk to students, I don't say, I'm talking to you as an adult to a child. I say, I'm talking to you as a human being to another human being. Because the issues that you're having are a lot of the issues that I'm still struggling with. They're human being issues. So as human beings, we all need to connect, all of us. We need to love and be loved. We want to belong as opposed to fitting in. Belonging is love as well. And we have to learn to be resilient to the obstacles we know are going to come. And we just want to feel good. Making it real simple. We just want to feel good. Everybody in here wants to feel good, right? And we're going to do it in one of 2 ways. Only one of 2 ways. Based on awareness and education. We're going to do it through anger. Because think about it. Anger feels good temporarily, doesn't it? Like, you get a shot of adrenaline or self-righteous indignation. I'm right, you're wrong. Feels good. But guess what? Prolonged anger is as bad as smoking 2 packs of cigarettes for you a day. So we're going to do it through anger. We're going to do it through bullying. Why do we bully, right? And I don't say kids, because we bully each other too. Why do we bully? We bully because we're trying to off-put our pain. Why do we do drugs? We do drugs. Why do we do drugs? And students. Why do human beings do drugs? Because we're trying to belong, right? We're looking for love. We're trying to reduce our anxiety. We're trying to feel good. We're trying to get high. And why do we join gangs and terrorist organizations? Bottom line, looking to belong, looking for love, right? So we're going to do it in that way, or we're going to do it through having healthy and positive relationships, deep and meaningful connections, being resilient, managing our emotions. We call that choosing love. We just want everyone to know that they have a choice and to give everyone that choice. So the neuroscience of choosing love is simple. There's a difference between pleasure and happiness, right? We're a pleasure-seeking society. We want pleasure and we want it now. The likes on your cell phone, ding. What does that do? It releases dopamine. Dopamine feels good. How long does that last? Does anybody have enough likes? I don't. In fact, I'm going to ask you to go on and like all my stuff afterwards. That's fleeting. It's different than happiness. Happiness that comes through relationships and connections, that releases oxytocin, not Oxycontin. Oxytocin. Oxytocin has dopamine, which is a sticky note for learning, by the way, and serotonin. And it lasts, it's that, it's the lasting feeling. That's what we all want, is a greater sense of happiness. So we also have a Choose Love at Home program that's coming out by the fall. This is social emotional learning for parents and caregivers. How exciting is that? I kind of stop saying that when I go into schools because educators jump over the table. Forget about the Choose Love program for schools. We want that for parents. I'm going to go into the formula because I want everybody to leave here with the skill and tool of having the formula. So the definition of courage is the willingness and ability to walk through obstacles despite feeling embarrassment, fear, reluctance, or uncertainty. Showed Jesse's example of courage, and for that courage, actually, he received a commander-in-chief funeral. And a commander-in-chief funeral is reserved for heads of state and returning war heroes. And Jesse was considered a war hero because his first grade classroom was a literal war zone. So I talk about that courage, obviously, because that's the same courage that we all have. This is just a quick, I fly all over the place spreading this message, right? So one time I'm on a plane, I like the window seat because I like to get my bearings. And I look out and there's a cord over the, we're taxiing, by the way, to take off. And I look out and there's this cord over the wing. Can you see it? Can you see it now? And I'm like, somebody's gonna say something, obviously, right? Somebody, I mean, I don't want to say anything. And the stewardess says she's walking back and she's going to sit down, and she sits down. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. There is something wrong on the wing. She gets up, she looks out, she goes, that's not right. I'm going to call the pilot. So the plane stops on the runway. The pilot comes back. He's annoyed. He looks, he walks back. You hear, ladies and gentlemen, somebody saw something that's probably nothing. We have to turn around though. And for those of you who have connections, you're probably gonna miss them. And I'm like, oh my God. We turn around, pull in. Now, by the way, this is funny, I'm taking pictures. They have no idea what this cord is. They're writing the part number on their hand. I don't think they ever replaced it. But anyway, after about 15 minutes, the pilot and the flight attendant come back to me and they say, who's the person that raised their hand? I'm like, oh my God, I am? And they said, thank you so much. The flight attendant said, it's my birthday today, and I wanted to live to see my next birthday. So thank you very much for pointing that out. And the pilot said, thank you so much. You may have saved lives. And then an interesting thing happened. People started getting up in the front and the back, and they said, oh my God, thank you so much for saying something. We saw that too, but we didn't want to say anything because, we just didn't want to say anything. And I learned something that day, because I'm still learning. Oh my gosh. So despite the fact that people thought that and by the way, we're going on the longest oceanic flight in the world overnight. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So all these people saw this, but despite the fact that they thought it might kill them, they didn't say anything. And that just proves my point with courage. And it took courage for me. And I don't really care what anybody thinks. And it took courage for me to raise my hand. So anyway, I thought I would share that with you. Here's the interesting thing. Look at the scientific benefits of courage. I was at a barbecue the other day, not here, unfortunately, so it wasn't great barbecue, but I had a t-shirt on that said, choose love. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, choose love, dude. And I said, oh, wow. I said, you know what? In the 60s, it was probably choose love, dude. Now, there's so much science behind each one of the character values that we teach. Do you want to hear about it? And he's like, yeah, let me grab a beer and I'll be back. He never came back. So look at the scientific benefits of practicing courage. It creates confidence, and these are all cited, by the way. It creates a sense of leadership. It helps us, be upstanders rather than bystanders. It helps us feel good. Go down to the last one, helps to counter bullying. There's research that shows that when you have the courage to stand up to bullying behavior, that behavior stops within 10 seconds. And that's not just kids, by the way. Now, why is it important to understand the benefits of something? Well, another research out of Harvard University, Ellen Langer in 2007 took 2 groups of hotel maids, brought them into a research center, gave them a thorough physical, and then split them into their separate groups. She made one group mindfully aware of the benefits of being a hotel maid. She basically said, hey, you're a hotel maid. And when you're, by definition, you're active in your job. When you're active in your job, you lose weight, you have better heart health, you have better moods. And then she told nothing to the control group. So she sends them back out to their 2 separate locations, no intermingling, brings them back into the research center 2 months later, gives them the same thorough physical. And lo and behold, the maids that had been made mindfully aware of the benefits of being a hotel maid experienced those benefits exponentially more than the control group. So what's the takeaway for us? When we understand the benefits of something, we experience them on an exponential level. Really important. Here's gratitude. Gratitude is mindful thankfulness and the ability to be thankful even when things in life are challenging. I'm in a 100% free and reduced lunch class, second grade class the other day. They're choosing love, they're working on their gratitude list. And I look over this kid's shoulder and I read his list and I send it to my team. His list says, number 1, I'm grateful for having a house when I'm not with my parents and for having foster parents. Number 2, I'm thankful to eat every day. This school actually sends kids home with backpacks full of food because they don't have it at home. And I send that to my team and I say, you know what? No one would blame this kid for being angry and belligerent. Clearly, he has stuff going on. Instead, he's focusing on what he has. He's going to be okay. And let's check out the scientific benefits of practicing gratitude. These are all scientifically proven. Emotional, social, career-wise, health-wise. It elongates our life. It helps us sleep. It helps us be healthy, helps our immune system, personality-wise, all leading to what? Greater happiness. Greater happiness, something that we want as all want as human beings. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is so vitally important. And remember, my new and improved definition is taking your personal power back. It's actually the key to resilience. We all talk about that word and we all want it in ourselves and our kids. Forgiveness is a great way to get it. One of the first public talks I ever gave was to an at-risk youth group, and it was about this big. And they asked me to talk about forgiveness, so I'm standing up here talking about forgiveness, and this kid in the way back, he goes, "What is forgiveness?" And I thought, oh my God, I'm not doing a great job. Okay, I said, I'm going to show you what it means to me. And this is actually now became a lesson in the program. I said, I felt like I was attached to the shooter with an umbilical cord that ran out of my side into the side of the shooter. All my personal power drained out of me in the form of anger through the cord into the shooter. And I was dragging him around. We were connected. I was dragging him around with me everywhere. I was giving him power over my thoughts, which impact my feelings, which then impact my behavior. The guy who killed my son, I'm giving him control over my thoughts, right? And I said, forgiveness to me was a big set of scissors. I took those scissors. It was a choice. I cut that cord that attached me to pain, and I felt all my personal power run back into me, and it felt so good. So he's back there going, how long did it take you to do that? And I said, that's a really good question, because I knew instinctively that someone who could do something so heinous must have been in a tremendous amount of pain. And guess what? Turns out he was, his whole life. And I said, so I made that decision really quickly, but it doesn't mean that I don't fall back into anger. Because I think about Jesse's 7th birthday, which was 6 months later. I wake up that morning, and I was so angry. I was devastated. I was distraught. What? What happened? What? My 7-year-old son, he should be here celebrating his birthday. What happened? So does that mean that I failed in my forgiveness? No. It means that I had to take a step back, take a deep breath, and forgive again. Forgiveness starts with a choice, and then it becomes a process, and it may be one we have to do every single day for the rest of our life. And it's okay. You know why? Because it's taking your personal power back. And here are the benefits of forgiveness. These are the scientifically proven benefits of forgiveness. There's decades of research behind the benefits of forgiving, by the way. Healthier relationships. Wait a minute, where did I hear healthy relationships? Oh yeah, the Harvard University 75-year longitudinal study saying that that healthy relationships are the #1 way to be happy. The #1 way to do that is through forgiveness. Okay, I'm going to have to go through this. I'm sorry. Compassion in action. We talked about what that was, but I want to show you the scientific benefits of compassion in action. This is your slide. You guys have phones? Whip them out. Take a picture of this. When you are aware of the benefits of something, you experience them on an exponential level. This is how you guys live your life. You already practice compassion in action on a daily basis. I want you to be aware of the benefits. I'd like you to take a picture, and I want you to hang this on your desk so that you can be aware, this is just a partial list, of the benefits of compassion in action. This is what you already do. You might as well be awareness of the benefits. A 22% reduction in mortality? Wow. Okay, it's not rocket science what I've been talking about today, but it is science, right? And does the Choose Love formula work for everyone in every circumstance? Well, I was asked to send my book, Nurturing Healing Love, up to convicted felons so that they could read it in prison. And I thought, they're not going to read it. A convicted felon's not going to read Nurturing Healing Love, but that's okay, because maybe the family will, maybe the staff will. Well, they all read it, underlined it, dog-eared it, highlighted it, and were ready to talk about this novel concept, because all they ever knew was anger, hatred, and resentment. And this thought that they could choose love was mind-boggling to them. And here's what they had to say about it. I love when this doesn't work, because then I get to make up what they said, but they said it saved lives. It saved their life knowing this, and it empowered them so much. So, you know the starfish story, right? The little boy walking along the seashore, picking up starfish, throwing them into the water, and the old man walking from the other way saying, "What are you doing?" "Well, the tide's gone out and all these starfish have washed up on the beach, and if I don't throw them back, they're going to die." And he goes, "Little boy, I just came from the other way. There are tens of thousands of starfish on this beach. If you worked all day, there's no way that you could make a difference." Little boy stops, bends down to pick up a starfish, throws it in the water, and said, "Made a difference to that one." And that's what you guys do every single day for your students. Your students are starfish, and you're literally saving and transforming them. One last message. Jesse left this message for his older brother. This is a last message from a younger brother to an older brother. JT found this on his desk, all folded up. It's about this big, and Jesse wanted him to have a lot of fun. And I thought, wow, that's so profound, not only for JT, from a little brother to a big brother, but it's profound for all of us as well. Because what are the two most important things that we do on a daily basis? Choose love in all of our decisions, because at their very base, we're either choosing love or fear, and the outcomes look vastly different. And have a lot of fun. Our kids want to have a lot of fun. We want to have a lot of fun. So I wanted to leave this with you. There's Dr. Chris Cook, who's actually on my board of directors now and wrote the neuroscience for the program, having a lot of fun. And I want to tell you how appropriate it is today and how grateful I am to be here because Jesse's birthday is June 30th. So Jesse's birthday is on Saturday, so this is my birthday present, being here, talking to you all about the importance of his message, the importance of social emotional learning. You guys are my people, so I want you to know really how blessed I feel. Jesse would be 12 years old on Saturday, so now he was alive as long as he's been dead, so it's kind of a significant birthday, and I want to thank you all for celebrating that with me. And I want to invite you to join the movement to choose love. You know the Margaret Mead quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful and dedicated group of citizens can change the world, because indeed it's the only thing that ever has." That small group of dedicated, committed citizens, we know it, is in this room today, here. We are going to change the world together. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you for choosing love.
Thank you, Scarlett, for sharing your moving journey, and your experiences remind us why the work that we do and why we're here for these 2 days is so important. So let's just give Scarlett one more round of applause. Before you guys transition, I do want to share that Scarlett will be here for the full 2 days. So if you have questions for her, please feel free. If you see her, you can do that. You can stop her and ask. And just a few reminders: lunch will start at 12:15, and the first sessions will start in 15 minutes at 10 o'clock. And as you exit the auditorium, you'll turn right, and they're all the way at the end. They're clearly marked. There are restrooms right outside of the auditorium, but on both hallways where the sessions are. Again, tech support is right out in the lobby. And if you signed up to attend the reception this evening that's hosted by Quaver, please make sure that you stop out in the lobby at the table and pick up your ticket for that event. We also do have coffee and breakfast snacks and other snacks and soda and water in the cafe, so you can stop by and pick up that at any point throughout the day. And all of the sessions that are posted in the library on the paper, they're actually in the auditorium, so the app is correct. And then just a final reflection that our superintendent was not able to be here this morning, but he will be here tomorrow morning to welcome everyone to Nashville. That's Dr. Joseph, and we are extremely fortunate to have his support to make this work possible in the district. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to hearing from him and Zaretta Hammond tomorrow. And please enjoy your conferences. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop and ask any of us that are working and have the staff badges. So thank you again.